tech. They take a look, and sure enough, she does have a mass on her ovary. They said it's very common for women of her age to have an ovarian cyst. A lot of times they actually just go away on their own. But the doctor, probably not a big deal. The doctor wants to take a look at it on Monday. So at this point, it's already grown a little bit, and I can actually, feel the bump with my hand. And then, so over the weekend, trying to keep things light, I made the first mistake as a caretaker. As I, tried to keep things light. I started making a couple jokes here and there. I might have even given it a name. So for all you caretakers, please don't ever do that. It did not go well. But I won't tell you what name it was. But so then on Monday, we go in to see the doctor, her OB, who delivered our first baby. And he looks at it and he says, well, we're definitely going to have to remove it. I don't think it's anything, we don't think it's cancerous, but we'll want to get rid of it. I'm actually going to be on vacation next week, so I'm going to refer you to the best surgeon I know up in the Bay Area. And she was a gynecological oncologist. And I want you guys to remember that for a second, because one of the things I want to talk about today is some things that we learned about ovarian cancer that we want to pass on to you guys. So please remember that, and I'll get back to that here in a second. So we find out we have to do a ton more tests. Apparently it's more serious than we thought. We spend all the day getting CAT scans, blood work, all sorts of stuff. And then we get a phone call that night from the surgeon. And this, I can honestly tell you, was the hardest and probably the worst day of my life. Surgeon calls up, talks to my wife directly, and I just hear her start to cry. And she puts the surgeon on speaker. And the first thing she says, so we're going to operate on Thursday. So then this is about a week after when we first discovered it. We're going to operate on Thursday, and I need to know, are you prepared to lose your fertility? And my wife says, absolutely not. In fact, we had just started trying to have our second child, and we definitely wanted more children. So we were, pretty upset. And then she says, well, we don't know what it is. I'm not going to know until I get in surgery and get in there and take a look at what it is. But if it is cancer, I'm going to have to give you a full hysterectomy, or you're probably going to die. So that's basically how that conversation went. And so we spent a long night of soul searching, and basically me as a caretaker trying to figure out what to say, trying to tell her it was going to be okay, and honestly having no idea if that was the case. So skip forward a few days, lots of questions, a few tests, and a drive up to the Bay Area, and then when we go into the surgery. So it takes about an hour, and then the nurse comes out, and she gives me this look and says it's negative. Now, me being in the military, I get a negative. I'm like, is that good? I don't know what that means. But so turns out they did the operation. She removed the tumor all in one piece. Ended up by this point it was 13 centimeters. It's about the size of a large grapefruit or so. And but everything looked good. They actually did a test while they was there. They didn't find any cancer in the tumor, so things are looking good. They were able to leave her other ovary. So we're just on cloud 9. This is fantastic. But she said, there's a very small chance. We have to do, some more tests. We're going to do a complete survey of the entire thing, and then some other tests. So in a week we'll give you the all clear. But things look really good. Like, great. So we go home for the next week, and then on our 3rd wedding anniversary, 7 days later, the surgeon calls and says, so the results came back, and actually we did find an abnormality. We're not exactly sure what it is yet, but we'll let you know. The next day we get a phone call, and she says, in her very blunt nature, says to Katheryn, you're going to live, you're going to have more children, but girl, we got to talk chemo. So that's when we found out that, in fact, she did have a very rare type of ovarian cancer. So from there, we move on, and we get with a fantastic oncologist up in Visalia, and they come up with the game plan. Apparently, her type of ovarian cancer was very rare. It's only 2% of all types, and it's also very treatable. Now, when I say that, doesn't mean it's easy. It was a 9-week chemo regimen. At the end of the day, she had 22 of them. Going from in 3-week cycles, she'd be in the treatment center, connected to IVs for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the first week, and then a couple hours 1 day a week for the 2 weeks after, and start the cycle all over again. So, kind of when I talked about earlier, I talked about the gynecologic oncologist. This is something important that, especially for all the women out here in the audience. What we learned later, as a good friend of ours forwarded us an article that he read, that ovarian cancer is one of those that they call it the silent killer because it's so hard to discover and it's so hard to treat. And a lot of times you don't treat it till it's too late. In Katheryn's case, we were lucky they found it so early. But the big thing is it's very common for normal OBs to remove cysts or things that they don't think are cancerous, and then they potentially miss something. In Katheryn's case, they referred her to a surgeon, the gynecological oncologist, and all she does is deal with masses in that area, and she knew exactly what to look for. And in her case, they actually found it in some of the fluid after they washed after the surgery. And that's how minute they had to go to find it. So please, if you ever find a mass of any type, you need to go to one of these specialists, and that